Hello, everyone, and happy springtime. That means the Darley NFFF essay contest is upon us. We are really excited that it is officially our 5th year of this contest. This is a kind of a watch before you submit video. It's a casual conversation between Gary Briese and myself about what's going on this year, what to expect, things you should consider, the do's and don'ts. And this year, the prompt, which we'll dive into, is how can artificial intelligence improve firefighter health, wellness, and safety? AI is a buzzword, and sometimes you hear AI slop, AI spaghetti, AI this, AI that. But we're really excited about how we can take this competition and this contest and look at how we can use AI for good to help the fire service today, which we're really excited to dive into and encourage you to write and use this as a platform to think critically and push the fire service to new levels. So without further ado, Gary, thank you again for all your leadership on this. If you could give us a reintroduction of yourself and some of your perspective on kind of the history and evolution of this contest.
Thank you, Kevin. Good morning. Um, my background is I have a background in as the executive director of the International Association of Fire Chiefs, the former executive director of the Florida College of Emergency Physicians, executive director of the Colorado State Fire Chiefs, FEMA Regional Administrator here in FEMA Region 8 in Denver, and a couple other things on the side. But all of that set aside, my interest has been for nearly 20 years trying to find a vehicle for the fire service to challenge current thought and doctrine. And it's taken that long. I pitched this idea to every editor of the magazines as far back as Fire Command magazine, multiple editors at Fire Engineering magazine, multiple editors at Fire Chief magazine and Firehouse magazine, and none of them picked this up. So I had the opportunity to be on the Darley board, and I spoke to Paul about this, and he sparked on the idea. And suddenly, Kevin, here we are, looking at the 5th essay competition, which is just absolutely phenomenal. The idea came from a magazine called Proceedings from the Naval Institute that I've subscribed to for a long, long time. And they run multiple essay competitions throughout the year. And what I saw was uh, uh, not even officers in the Navy who generally belong to the Institute or the Coast Guard or the Marine Corps, but enlisted personnel from those organizations submitting their thoughts for what they feel as the challenges for their various services. And there were also several articles about, well, this is a really risky thing to do, to challenge current doctrine, to go where nobody else has gone before. And they write that in, and then in the next issue of the magazine comes out something from a 3 or 4 star admiral or a major general in the Marine Corps saying, no, I took a chance when I was your age and your rank and wrote essays and submissions to the proceedings. And while it may have caused more attention to come to me, in no case did anybody feel it hurt their careers. So, that's the driving force behind me. The fire service gets wrapped up in itself, in our own doctrine, and nobody tends to challenge that doctrine at the level the essay competition is doing that. So this year, this first time now we're introducing an AI-related topic, and that comes with AI-related rules too. So, Kevin, why don't you take it from
Yeah,
there?
we'll dive into that. And I mean, we've had some great prompts over the years as it pertains to leadership, recruitment, diversity, equity, inclusion, and last year really diving into the why behind mental health issues within the fire service. And some of the past prompts have been very much kind of introspective and diving into the why. This is one of the first times we're kind of leading into asking the fire service to come up with what might be some practical solutions and really. And again, it's not necessarily that, hey, yeah, these tools exist out there, but how are they going to be applied to really enhance the fire service? Gary, we talked about this about how fast the stuff is moving, and oftentimes we hear in the fire service of like, oh well, what if this could be done and maybe in 5 years? But we see how examples in the commercial market, whether it's Uber or you see the Airbnb for this, the Uber for that, but what about the AI solution for the fire service today? The AI solution for the fire service in 6 months, and this contest right now is asking about practical AI applications that can realistically impact the fire service in the next 2 years. So thinking very much today, and there's a link in there that has a video for the NFL digital athlete analogy. And obviously the NFL is this huge mega sport, big money. And of course, yeah, the fire service isn't on that same level. But when thinking about AI simulations and predictive models to spot injury risk and design smarter training, we're asking, what is the fire service version of that? And Gary, we had talked too about some of these other suggested topics to spark ideas, and I'm just going to kind of throw a few, but considering like AI enabled training, predictive analytics for wildland and all hazard incidents, roadway incidents risk forecasting, decision support tools for complex fire and hazmat events, fatigue and workload tracking, exposure and injury trend analysis, or mental health and resilience resources. I mean, it's endless where this could go, and it is sort of open ended. But Gary, what are some of your thoughts? And before we go into the AI rules, about like your perspective on what you think we should be considering about how to look at how AI can be applied for the fire service and what we want people to think about and write about this year.
Kevin, about a month ago, I was at a Chiefs conference here in Colorado. About 125 chiefs attended, and there was an AI presentation about what one fire department was doing and how they were lifting the rules off of, or lifting the top off the pot, so to speak, and saying, we're going to give you very broad guidelines about how you can use AI in this fire department. And one of the questions that was asked, how many fire departments that were there were already using AI? And probably 30%, raised their hands, one form or another. And then second question was, well, how many of you even know if AI is being used by your firefighters in your fire department? And about an equal number of hands went up. Um, so I think this genie, if you will, AI, is already out of the box. It is being used by firefighters across the United States to do various things. This one particular fire department allowed a system that was set up by the firefighters for shift trades to be utilized officially in the department, for firefighters wanting to trade shifts. Fire department didn't come up with that. The firefighters came up with that, and that's why this competition this year, asking the question about how AI can be used, I have no doubt that of the 29,000 fire departments in the United States, there's probably 4,000 or 5,000 at least, including volunteers, career and combination departments, that are using AI in one form or another. So, like I said, the genie's out of the bottle. We're not going to be able to put it back in. So now we have to figure out how we can use the abilities of AI and the challenges that the fire service faces to mesh together to address, in this case, firefighter health and safety.
And a key thing for everyone listening who is going to submit this year is you do not need to be an AI expert. Really, what we're asking for is we want you to be a practitioner of someone who sees problems on the fire ground every day and can imagine how technology might help them solve them. And of course, some of the stuff that we used to think was fairy tale, impossible, or required 100 engineers and $100,000 to get a minimum viable product going is no longer the case. And of course, there are these tools, whether it's using vibe-coded solutions or using agentic AI and all these different use cases of where these solutions can be helpful that can get you from 0 to 1 quickly. Of course, hardening and taking this to a larger scope is something that does take a lot of time and effort. And that's not necessarily what we're asking you to do. We really want this to be a thought-provoking, critical thinking exercise where we encourage you to address these pertinent risks that are happening within the fire service and really look at how these new technologies that exist today can be applied to support and solve and create new solutions to these problems. And so, Gary, I kind of want to transition into sort of the nuances of what the judges can and will be looking for within this exercise, where the kind of the four buckets of the judging criteria are specific solutions offered, potential impact on the fire service, quality of writing, and intangibles. Let's talk through that so people are aware of what to consider when they're thinking about what to write and ultimately how it will be judged.
Well, I think the biggest thing is, in particular, most people tend to being descriptive about AI as opposed to proscriptive, meaning that we're going to define the problem again. We know what the problem is, okay? That right now, as I said, AI is already being used at levels we have no idea within the fire service. So we just have to accept that reality. We're not going to stop it. And then how to best utilize it to improve health and safety. Those answers will come from the firefighters generally before they come from leadership. Because one, the firefighters are digital natives, most of them, and the leadership is not. So we think differently. Senior leaders think differently than new firefighters or fire officers. We don't want personal stories are important and they're good for illustration, but we don't want it to be. We want something that you can describe and duplicate in another department, or that will stimulate duplication in another department.
Yep.
Am I tracking right, Kevin?
Yeah, and then so specific solutions offered, you kind of touched on that. And then one of the big things we put into a bucket is the potential impact on the fire service. And really thinking about, can this concept move the fire service forward? So thinking short term and long term, and is this something that helps a single department or scale across the profession? And again, with the dynamic of some of these software development tools that are existing, you can make software very custom purpose built for an individual fire department. But thinking of that point, Gary, and then the other ones kind of that we'll get on quality writing in a second, but then the intangibles being kind of the wow factor of like, be a little bit contrarian. Can we challenge assumption? Does it spark discussion? Is the core message courageous? I mean, we want the
Does it
judges and
does it
people.
does it reduce time to competency? Okay, meaning if you start a project and you judge somebody competent, does it reduce that time in some manner to go from beginning to competency, which I think it has tremendous powers to do.
And this essay contest this year is a little different. So we are learning on the fly. This is our fifth year doing it. We may end up tweaking the the criteria a little bit because this is a little bit of a different question we're asking. But at the same time, just know that, I mean, we've got right now 14, soon to be 15 independent judges, and it goes through 3 independent review process, kind of going from the first round to the second round to the final round. So there's a very structured and copious and meticulous method of how we are working with the judges to go from a pool of around 90 essays down to the final 5 and then the final 3. And then, Gary, kind of speaking about quality of writing, where obviously this year, again, we're asking for solutions and ideas, and it's a little different than previous years. But talk to me a little bit about the quality of writing and the structure, the clear writing, logical flow, strong vocabulary, readability. Of course, not necessarily asking people to write like an academic, but what would you say about to leave a message with people about what to consider when thinking about quality of writing?
Well, one of the first things I look for in this kind I go to the back page and I see what footnotes are there. What other sources have they used to come up with the essay? And, few footnotes tells me two things. One, it's either completely original thought, or that it has the potential for being translated from someplace else without credit. I think the academic rigor of footnotes and not necessarily a bibliography, but of footnoting when you're when you're using other people's ideas to validate what your thoughts are absolutely critical. And so I'm not a judge, but that's one of the things that I would flip to is that back page and see how many footnotes are there and how many citations are made. That is complicated, as we've discussed with AI a little bit. Um, so, Kevin, you want to touch
Yeah.
on how we're going to deal with an essay
Yeah.
about AI when
So yeah,
everything
we're
is
of
written
course
by AI?
I used AI to create the image that is the promotional outreach for this. I use AI all the time, but I think with something like this, we want to continue to maintain some of the integrity of the human thought and critical thinking. And we're not saying don't use AI at all, but there's a different academic standard that we came across. There's a lot of different use cases that we're seeing, but there's a standard for Gen AI usage expectations levels, and we've provided a link from Illinois State University where there's goes all the way from level 0 to level 6. Level 0 being nothing, nada, can't use it can't even look at it. To level 6 where it's do as much as you want for everything across the board. We are going with a tier 3. So what you can use AI for is brainstorming topics and organizing your thinking, refining your outline, getting feedback on clarity and structure, and checking on flow. What you cannot do in tier 3 is you can't paste AI generated paragraphs into your submission. You can't
Uh-huh.
let ChatGPT or any other tool write your sentences for you, and you can't submit anything that is not your own words. So you please look at this Illinois State.edu submission guideline. There are some others out there, but we are rolling with the tier 3. We will be using an AI sort of tracker. And of course, if anything, just within the submission, we are going to ask if you disclose which tools you've used. It's by no means are you disqualified for using tools. You just got to use them in the right ways. So, Gary, anything else you want to add on that before we move on?
No, I think the rigor of the input and then the rigor of the judges uh, it will bridge the gap over AI. I think if authors are honest and put the footnotes in and say this is from AI, this is et cetera, et cetera, I think that will strengthen the overall presentation, not weaken it at all.
Yeah. I mean, we want your thoughts. I don't want Anthropic's and OpenAI's regurgitated thoughts from some other people. I want your thoughts.
So, Kevin, what's the difference between what we used to call crowdsourcing, right? Going out to the crowd and getting ideas. And now we're crowdsourcing via AI. What's the difference there?
I don't know. Let me ask chat really quick. Frank, I love AI as much as anyone else, but I think the most important thing is just wanting to preserve and encourage the uniqueness and the authenticity of the individual. No doubt it's great to use AI. I mean, I use Perplexity in particular for research, and it's a great tool. But there's the most beautiful thing that AI will never touch is the human brain and you and the uniqueness and the creativity and the authenticity. If anything, I want us to, we're trying to crowdsource your own brain. And of course, it's good to talk with others. But I think, if anything, hopefully this AI revolution is enabling the continued rise of the individual and individualism and your uniqueness, and how you're using these tools, how you're deploying these tools, and how you're seeing the problems on the fire ground, and how you're deploying and tinkering and bringing some of these tools in. So
Exactly.
I don't know if I fully answered that question, but I think it's really trying to lean into the individualism of everyone that's listening to this and wanting to submit to the contest this year.
100% agree. I'm of all of the previous four contests, this one for me is the most exciting because we're not only asking about AI, about how it can be used and to improve firefighter health and safety. We're going to have to deal with AI being used in the essay competition, which I think is groundbreaking as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. And another thing that I didn't mention, a couple final points, is the National Fallen Fighter Foundation has the 12 firefighter fire and life safety initiatives, which is also a link. And one of the topics is around training and safety, and there's different integration of technology. So if you can find different ways to reference the 12 NFFF fire and life safety initiatives, that is sort of a little bonus, as in strongly encouraged, as we want to continue to make sure any of the work that's being created is aligned with some of these other macro initiatives. But of course, it's not required for this mission. And other things to really consider is, don't be I don't want you to be too vague. I don't want you to be like, oh, AI could help firefighters. Like, of course, yes, we know, but how specifically? What tool? What application? What workflow? Get nerd out, and the more specific, the more granular, the better. And I think we talked about this before, Gary, too, but just being contrarian and challenging existing doctrine and not just talking about how everything is messed up and everything is broken. We know that. It's not all completely broken, but we want original thought on how you're challenging original doctrine and trying to create something new that hasn't existed yet. Um, Gary, what kind of other tips would you say of things to avoid or things to really lean into when thinking about structuring a submission this year?
Well, you know, when I thought about writing an essay like this for a competition, it takes me probably several weeks to just think about it, machinate over it, make notes, change notes, that kind of stuff like that, and then begin formulating. It's not something that I can do, just sit down and type it out, right? I do a lot of research, use AI too, and doing the research. I'll do bibliographic searches and stuff like that. But at the same time, thought leadership is um, this is a thought leadership competition. It is not a regurgitation of existing doctrine and ideas. This is something that challenges current thought in a manner that is not um, offensive to current thought, even though it may be challenging. And I think that for me, that's going to be that really knife edge that people walk. How do you do that? And do it to the manner that somebody who is vested in the current system can read and go, yeah, maybe this can make a difference. And that's what we're trying to do. Uh, challenge thought, challenge doctrine in a thoughtful and meaningful manner.
Yep. And a big thing is don't forget the so what. Every idea and anything you're working on really should connect back to how could this save lives, reduce injuries, and improve the wellness of firefighters in the community. So just always kind of have that so what in mind. And a couple other kind of final practical things is that this year, anyone can enter. We're encouraging fire and rescue professionals, all ranks, all departments around the entire world. And if you are an international department or international representative of the fire service, we want to hear from you. Obviously, there might be certain countries that we need to address case by case, but if for some reason we can't get you a cash prize, we will figure something else out if you do win. But there are $6,000 in cash prizes, $3,000 for first place, $2,000 for second, $1,000 for third. And then in addition to that, we have an alignment with the Texas A&M Teaks Leadership Conference.
Mhm.
One of the top winners gets to present there. And then we have alignment with Crackle Media, Fire Rescue One, Firehouse, Fire Engineering's, iChiefs, Firefighter Nation. All these groups will publish some of the winning articles. We have different podcast series that we're continuing to lean into. And so just a lot of really cool opportunities to, again, use this as a platform to get to the next level. And probably the thing that's made me most happy and joyful and just grateful for working on this with you, Gary, is seeing some of the progress and impact that Carrie Henderson and Kyle Matusik
Mhm.
to Lindsay Judah and Jimmy Howarth and Mark Rosaki, some of the past winners, seeing them speak and be part of other programs and really using this essay contest as a launch pad. Um,
Agreed.
so so yeah, before final call to action, Gary, anything else there on kind of the practical stuff that you want to add?
Oh, I think I would say the biggest thing is have fun writing the essay. Give us what we don't expect to get. I think that's the most important thing. And it's important what you think. It's important what you write, but it's even more important that what you think, write, and share. Too often we hear the discussion, and I've asked people, "Have you ever written that and shared that out with anybody else?" And I go, "No, I didn't. No, it's not that important." I said, "No, it is that important." All right, and as the essay competition matures, we're going to find more and more people willing to not only think, write, but share. And in this case, it's share put themselves out to be judged as and I think those are four tremendous indicators of somebody who's got the not only the potential but the reality of leadership in their soul.
Well said, Gary. And I think the other thing when you're starting to maybe consider where to write, I would also say maybe don't overthink it. I mean, maybe kind of just go through a week or two of your
Yes,
daily life and start with a problem that you see every day and ask yourself, could artificial intelligence and some AI solution maybe help with this? Write that down, and that could maybe be the foundation for your essay. And just know that we read every single submission. The judges care, I care, Gary cares. We all, this is why we're doing this. And a major shout out to W.S. Darley and Company and the National Fallen Firefighter Foundation for continuing
exactly.
to enable this and bring this to life. The submissions will be opening up early mid-April, most likely kind of April 6 to 10 timeframe, and going through mid-June to around like June 15th or so. So again, and if you have any questions, my email and information will be in this YouTube link in the page. But if you just Google Darley essay contest, Darley essay competition, I know we've interchanged between those words, and I'm the culprit of that. Or reach out to me at Kevin Sofen, KevinSofen at darley.com. You can get a reach of me. And we're just really excited to have you participate this year. And please reach out. And Gary, any final comments before we close out here?
Yeah, I think when we close this year's competition, I want the viewers to understand that for all intent and purposes, more than 500 submissions have been put forth into this competition. That's almost 500 people who have never done that kind of writing before. And that's exactly what we want to do. I'd love to see, we've been averaging basically 100 submissions a year. I'd love to see 150 submissions this year, just because of the growth of the competition. But to realize 500 people have said, I will think, I will write, I will share, and I will put my thoughts out for others to judge, not just read, but judge. I think that's a huge kudo for Darley, for the NFFF, and for every single author who has submitted.
Well said, Gary. We may need to get a couple more judges if we get those numbers, but that would be a good problem to
That's,
have.
that's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
Kevin,
Well,
thank you very much.
likewise. Thank you, Gary.